Today we are heading for Long Island to capture video of the Long Island Railroad, which is the oldest railroad in the United States, still operating under its original name and charter. We take a ride through New York City and go over the famous Queensboro Bridge as part of our Long Island experience.
Subway during the day.
At more than a mile long, 7,449 feet, the Queensboro Bridge is a beautiful steel cantilever bridge. It has four 350-foot steel towers and is 100 feet wide. The bridge's construction started in 1901. After a difficult start with strikes, political infighting, and sabotage, the bridge was finished in 1909. Its main cantilever span remains the 12th longest in the world. It is also one of the busiest bridges with more than 200,000 vehicles passing over it every day. This bridge has been used as a backdrop for many movies and television shows. As we travel along the East River, we see many more bridges. It is interesting to note the number of wooden water tanks on the roofs of many buildings. The Glen Street Station in Glen Cove is on the Oyster Bay branch of the Long Island Railroad. The track to Glen Cove was completed in 1867, 35 years after the Long Island Railroad started. Glen Cove was the end of the line at that time. Most of the coaches on the train are bi-level cars. There are a minimum of 6 cars and a maximum of 12 cars per train. The station we see today was built in 1895. This station has been used in movies and television commercials. 2 of the more notable movies are Sabrina and Hello Again. Glen Cove has had at least 3 different stations. To the right, where the Burger King is located, was the original station site. Hicksville is named for Valentine Hicks. He was the son-in-law of famous abolitionist and Quaker Elias Hicks. Valentine Hicks eventually became president of the Long Island Railroad. Mr. Hicks bought a large tract of land and erected the original station in 1837. This branch of the railroad was not very prosperous until after World War II. After the war, Hicksville became a bustling suburb of New York City and now has a population of over 41,000. Some famous entertainers have come from Hicksville. Billy Joel is one of them. Hicksville is on the Port Jefferson branch of the Long Island Railroad.
Ladies and gentlemen, The 12:25 p.m. to Huntington is operating on time.
Another distinction in recent years is the rededication of the newly restored Penn Central Eagle in Hicksville. Mineola is centrally located in Long Island and was flat and grassy. Originally, this area was named Hempstead Plains. Mineola is a Native American word for pleasant place. The village of Mineola is only about 1.5 square miles. With its more than 19,000 residents, it has a population density of about 10,000 per square mile. The Long Island Railroad serves 2 regions from Mineola. All the trains for the Oyster Bay branch come through the village of Mineola. Another branch sends passengers to Port Jefferson. 145 trains a day stop at the station in Mineola. The Long Island Railroad is the busiest commuter railroad in North America. The railroad carries more than 83 million passengers a year. Long Island was part of Henry Hudson's original claim in the name of the East India Company, which dates back to 1609. The Long Island Railroad uses welded rail and concrete ties. The railroad provides both electric and diesel rail service. Much of the rail is electrified using the third rail between the double track arrangement. The Long Island Railroad was established in 1834 and has been in continuous operation since. It is the oldest railroad still operating under its original name and charter. There are 124 stations on the Long Island Railroad. The railroad has more than 700 miles of track. There are 2 main forks and 8 major passenger lines. The Long Island Railroad is the only commuter railroad in the United States which schedules trains 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Long Island Railroad was originally set up to create a rail and ferry connection between New York and Boston. The ferry would run between Greensport, Long Island, and Stonington, Connecticut. It was felt that the terrain in Connecticut was too difficult to put the railroad through. In 1849, the rail and ferry concept was abandoned when an all-land route was made through Connecticut. The tracks eventually became the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad. The Oyster Bay branch splits from the main line at Mineola. The Long Island Railroad is known for several firsts in its history. It developed the hook head spikes in 1836, which are now standard. The first steam whistle was put on a locomotive also in 1836. The Long Island Railroad was the first to use a diesel locomotive in road service in 1926. In 1885, the railroad carried its first farm wagons on top of flat cars. Today we refer to that as a piggyback train. In 1927, the railroad started the first all-steel passenger fleet. On the nose of the locomotives is the slogan, "We serve with pride," which was first used in the 1970s. The two crossed American flags beside the cluster of General's stars above the "We Serve with Pride" slogan shows everyone that the railroad supports America's efforts after 9/11 and the Iraq War. This is one of those themes which capture two meanings with one slogan. The clean, shiny coaches give the impression of the pride the railroad has in its appearance and service. In 1930, the Long Island Railroad was the first to install a remote control electrical substation. interest of safety, in 1931 the railroad developed an electronic rail detector which was used to spot invisible flaws in the rail. From its beginning, the Long Island Railroad spelled railroad as two words, and it continues to do that to this day. Long Island Railroad is part of the MTA, or the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. In 1958, the Long Island Railroad installed the first completely automatic IBM inventory control system. The Long Island's Atlantic Avenue Tunnel is recognized by Guinness as the world's oldest.
How you doing?
It's okay to have people in the shop. That's what the trains are all about.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you. Mineola gave us one more attraction at the end of the day, a spectacular sunset. Thank you for watching this presentation of Train Time as we visited Long Island, New York.